Order.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. My question is to the Treasurer. Will the Treasurer remind the House how the Morrison government's tax-cutting agenda will abolish an entire personal income tax bracket and how it has ensured small business tax rates as now at 50-year lows? How do measures like these strengthen our economic recovery, and is the Treasurer aware of any alternative approaches?
The Treasurer has the call.
Well, thank you, Mr Speaker. Oh, jeez.
I'll hear the Manager of Opposition Business.
Mr Speaker, previously, as I referred to in the previous point of order, you ruled that alternative policies were going to be allowed.
Yes.
This now doesn't refer to policy at all.
Yes.
It refers to simply approaches. And I'm trying to work out how this could possibly be within the responsibility of the minister, which is all that we're allowed to ask in terms of questions.
I'm going to allow the question. It is in order. My view is that the issue of the question of alternative approaches is a reasonable question, and I'll give the call to the Treasurer.
Well, thank you, Mr Speaker. Clearly the Labor Party doesn't want to hear the truth about their own policies, Mr Speaker, and their own approaches. Now, I would like to thank the member for Higgins for her question, acknowledge her experience as a paediatrician, as a world-leading medical researcher, and as someone who supports small business across her electorate. More than 25,000 small businesses in the electorate of Higgins are eligible for the expanded instant asset write-off, like a local snap printing business that was able to buy a new printer, Mr Speaker, and support their 4 employees with our new business investment incentives that we've announced in recent budgets. Now, Mr Speaker, Australia has encountered the biggest economic shock since the Great Depression with COVID-19. We saw some forecasts last year that the unemployment rate could reach as high as 15%. That's more than 2 million Australians who are unemployed. And we know that the experience of previous recessions in the 1980s and the 1990s was a scarring of the labour market, where it took between 8 and 10 years to get the unemployment rate back to where it was before those recessions. Well, this time round, the experience of the Australian labour market and the experience of the Australian economy has been very different. Mr Speaker, it took just over a year to get the unemployment rate back to where we were. And today the unemployment rate at 5.2% is lower than when we came to government. And we've seen today payroll jobs up, and we've seen across every state and territory in the Commonwealth, jobs are now higher than when we were going into the pandemic. And one of the reasons is because of our policies to drive down taxes for families by legislating to abolish a whole tax bracket, the 37 cents in the dollar tax bracket, and also putting in place a small business tax cut down to 25%, which ensures that small business taxes are now their lowest in 50 years. And this is helping to create jobs. Now, I'm asked, are there any alternative approaches? Well, we know that those opposite at the last election took $387 billion of higher taxes. Now, I know they're running around saying that their policies won't be identical to the last election. But I was surprised, maybe not so surprised, to read on the front page of The Australian on the September the 29th, the headline, and I read, "Jim Chalmers proposes Bill Shorten-era family trust tax hit," Mr Speaker. A $27 billion hit on family businesses. They cry cockerel tears for small business. There's only one side of this House that supports the small business, and that's the Liberals and Nationals in this coalition.
The Leader of the Opposition.